Video conferencing software is the cornerstone of any successful and productive team. Video conferencing tools like Zoom allow individuals to meet and work together productively face-to-face when meeting in person is not possible. This makes meeting remotely much more human, which is essential in order to help users feel and stay connected. Because of the lockdowns and social distancing from the coronavirus pandemic, virtual meetings and teleconferencing are on the rise. A popular software application in wide use that makes video conferencing possible is Zoom. Hang on to the end of this video because I'm going to explain to you how to install Zoom on either your laptop computer or your smartphone and get started with it and go through some of the basic features. Hi, I'm Jim Costa. I'm a videography, photography, and technology guru, but you can call me a dadographer. If you want to learn more, remember to subscribe to my channel and hit that bell to be notified when I upload new videos. Zoom is a cloud-based video conferencing platform that can be used for video conferencing, meetings, audio conferencing, webinars, meeting recordings, and live chat. What most people will be used to regarding Zoom is what's known as Zoom meetings. Zoom meetings are the foundation of Zoom, and the term refers to video conferencing meetings using the platform that allow remote and co-located meeting attendees to communicate seamlessly. Since you don't need to have a Zoom account to attend a Zoom meeting, you can even meet with clients or conduct interviews with remote candidates virtually. A Zoom meeting simply refers to a meeting that's hosted using the Zoom platform, and attendees can join the meeting via webcam or video conferencing camera or even a smartphone, allowing people from remote locations to get together virtually. Basically, these are the types of meetings that most people are familiar with when using Zoom. With that, let me jump over to my computer and I'll show you how to download it on my laptop, and we'll go through some of the features as well. And I'll also download it on my phone so that you can see how it works on the smartphone. I'm now at my computer. I'm working on a Mac, but just so you remember, Zoom is a standalone app for both PC and Mac. It also works on any type of phone, including Google or Samsung or iPhone or others. I'm going to use the free version of Zoom. I'm using my Apple computer, but it works exactly the same on a PC. The free version will allow up to 100 participants in your meetings, and the paid version you can actually have up to 1,000 participants. However, most people are just fine with the free version unless you run a big corporation, and then you can go ahead and pay the monthly fee and have the full-on 1,000 participant version. Let me give you an important note. Zoom does actually work in a web browser, but it's really better if you download the app onto your smartphone or onto your computer or tablet or whatever you're using, because using it in the web browser, you actually lose a number of features. It still works, it just doesn't work as well. So my advice to you is to download the app. To do that, open up your browser and go to their webpage. It's zoom.us. This is the home page of Zoom, and what you want to do is come over here to the top. Now they have join a meeting, host a meeting, sign in, or sign up because it's free. So let's go ahead and click sign up, and you're going to get this screen. You need to confirm some information. So the first thing is your date of birth, and I'm going to enter that. Once you get it, click continue, and you have to enter an email address. So I'm going to go ahead and enter mine. You enter yours, whatever email address you want to use. You also have the option to sign in with Google or Facebook. I'm just going to use my email since that's the most convenient. Then click sign up when you're done. Now you get this message that they send an email to your email address. Yeah, and you have to click on the confirmation link to begin to use it. So let me jump over to my email. Okay, here I am. I'm in my email, and here's the message from Zoom. So go ahead and open it. It will ask you to sign in to confirm. So let's do that. You have to enter your email and a password. And I click stay signed in here. You don't have to, but that way it just automatically opens up. Once you re-enter and sign in, you're all set. Now you can set up a profile. You can have your photograph here. You can change your email account and manage your account and so forth. I'm not going to worry about that because it's not too important, but you can like show your email, and you have a personal meeting ID, which is very important because when you want to create a meeting and have people join it, you're going to need that. This tells you the type of account you have. Mine is a basic or a free one, but you can upgrade and pay. And capacity here is up to 100 people. So that should fit most people, I think. I have it set to English. I have it set to the time zone where I live. You can change the date here. You can edit this. And it has used 24-hour time. If you want, you can edit that to... You can edit your time zone. You can change how you want that set up. I like year, month, and day. And yeah, I uncheck 24-hour time because I don't really care about military time, so I'll save that. Once you get all that done, you can read your messages and things here. I'm going to upload a picture from my computer. You can resize the image. Most people and move it around, so I want my company logo instead of my face. And I'm going to save that. And now anytime I come up, it'll have my name and my company logo here. What most people are going to do are they're going to set up a meeting. So you want to come up here to the top hand corner here, and you can hit schedule meeting. Now what's going to happen is this is usually a person who is like a business owner or the professor of a class who's going to teach a class, or someone giving a seminar, or for whatever reason that you want to use it. When you schedule a meeting, you can set the topic. So let's just do test first meeting. You can title it whatever you want. You can put a description. We'll just put training, and you can set the time as to when you want it. It says here 5 p.m. on May the 3rd. Because that's the first available time. It's every time. And you can set the time AM or PM. You can set the hour here. You can change the date here to whatever you want. You can set the length of the meeting. An hour is probably most, but you can do it whatever you need. So people can plan their schedule. Now, this is very important. Your basic plan has a time limit of 40 minutes on meetings with 3 or more participants, unless you upgrade. Now, if you do have a lower number of participants, let's say you have 1 or 2, you can have longer meetings. Otherwise, if you want to have a longer meeting with 3 or more people, say over 40 minutes, then you need to upgrade your plan to a paid plan. And you can set the time of the meeting. It's very important. Usually you'd set it to the time of the person who's hosting the meeting. And sometimes you can, if it's a once a week meeting with your team or whatever, you can click on recurring meeting so that they know that every day of the week at this time that you're always going to have the same meeting. This is the meeting ID, and then this is kind of important. It's internally generated by Zoom, and its purpose is so that you can send that meeting ID out, so people join the right meeting. And why would you want to do that? Well, I mean, if you're a company and you have multiple meetings a week, maybe even multiple meetings on the same day, people want to join the right meeting at the right time. So if you just did this once in a while and you only have one, it's not going to be a problem. But if people are super busy and they have a bunch, you want to make sure that they actually join the right meeting. And you have your choice of generate automatically, which I would just keep clicked, or you can have a personal meeting ID, which is for you personally, but the automatic one is fine for most cases. This is important. This is the meeting password, and if you have it checked here, it requires a password to join, and Zoom will automatically generate it. Now this is sort of an option if you want to do it. One of the reasons you'd have a meeting password is so that people who don't belong in a meeting don't actually join it, and they can join it if they have this meeting ID that's up here. If it's a private meeting with shareholders or just your specific class, if you're a teacher and you don't want other people joining, then you would probably want a meeting password. If it's a training course and you sell courses online or something like that, that's not important, then you don't really need this because you want more people to do. So it's kind of up to you to decide the level of privacy and security you need, whether you need a meeting password or not. This here is where you set up your audio and video. There's 2 choices. Most likely, the host is going to want to have their video on. Zoom works either video meetings or audio meetings, which are kind of like, almost like making a phone call. So the real question is, whom do you want to see? In most cases, you're probably going to want to have the video on for the participants and the host, so that everyone can see each other. Now that's not necessarily true if you're doing a seminar where you're training someone or teaching someone how to do things. You probably don't want to see hundreds of people or how many ever people are in there on screen. You just want to do the host. So you would leave the host on and leave the participants off. So in this case, I'm going to turn it on so that it's me who can see, and I'll do participants too. This is the other option of the audio. In most cases, it would make sense for the host to have audio because whoever's talking, you'll need to be able to hear. The question is really on the participants here. Do you want the participants to be able to be heard? If it's a classroom where a professor or a teacher is teaching and you want to ask questions and have people come back and answer them, what you want to do is you want to have the audio on so that people can participate if they need to. If it's not, and it's like a training and you don't want that, then you could keep it turned off. And you have two choices here, telephone or computer. Oh, and the automatic default is both. Why would you have that? Well, that's because you may or may not want to hear the sound from people's computer. I'm using a computer now. Or some people might use their smartphone to call in. So you have to decide whether you want the audio to be available for both or one or the other. Default is both, and I would just keep it probably to both. So anyone, no matter how they connect to your meeting, either a smartphone or a computer can still speak if they need to. And there's a few other options down here to set up your meeting. So you have enable join before host. That is one that's interesting. You have the choice of letting people arrive early to the meeting. If you're the host, you just start on time. Otherwise, the host has to be logged in and have started the meeting before anyone can start. So that's up to you. If it's an important meeting and people want to arrive early and you want to let them get in there, that's okay. It's however you want to set it up, that's up to you. This one is mute participants upon entry, and that's something you have to decide for each meeting. If it's a training where it's one way and the host is talking and no one else is really going to participate in the meeting, but they're just going to listen in, you would want them to be muted on entry so that the people could watch and see whatever you're doing, but they cannot be heard. This is a waiting room, it's called, which basically means, think of it like being on hold on the telephone. And that's where people can, if they join early, they're in the lobby and they're waiting for the front door to open or something like that. Think of it like that. And then this is another one, record the meeting automatically on the local computer. The local computer is the one used by the host. And if this is, say, you're a teacher training or you're doing some kind of course and you want to record your meeting so that people could access it later who maybe couldn't be there live, or you're going to put it online on your YouTube channel or on your corporate website or something like that, you want to record the meeting, and Zoom will do that so that you don't have to do it twice, and anyone who couldn't be at the meeting can just watch the replay later, and then you save or cancel your settings for the particular meeting you just set up. Now, I'm not going to actually set up a meeting, so I'm just going to cancel that and not save that. When you're logged in, you have some choices here. You see all the meetings you have coming up that you've been asked to join. You can see the ones you previously were a part of, the ones in the past that you attended. This is a personal meeting room, and this is sort of like, it's almost like a breakout session. Like if you have a pro level account and you have a study group, if you're a teacher and you have 3 or 4 people in your group, you can have a personal meeting room, which is like a smaller sort of subset of the main group. And these are meeting templates. This is like how you want to set up the meeting later. Like if you're doing a training, maybe you have, like you want a picture-in-picture with your training course and you in there and stuff like that. So let's click over here and go to join a meeting. Now when you click that, you need to enter your meeting ID or your personal link name. To do that, you need your personal meeting ID. And I'm join. Zoom wants to open the application. Once you do that, once you do join a meeting, Zoom needs to actually install the app on your computer. If you want, you can skip that other meeting setup stuff that I did before, but that's how you would set up a meeting. In order to get started, once you click join a meeting, that was over here, and enter your ID, your personal ID, you need to download the app for it to fully work properly on your computer. Then you get this message here. So open Zoom. And right now it's going to download the app onto my computer. And you have this screen that comes up. It says join with computer audio or test speaker and microphone. I recommend that you test it first. And it says, do you hear the ringtone? Of course, you heard that sound. You can change the speakers. Right here, it says built-in output. That's because I'm using the built-in speakers on my computer. Let me change my input to the input, and you see this moving? You have choices here. I have a microphone set up. Change my input to the input, and you see this moving? You have choices here. I have a microphone set up. You have your choice of the built-in mic, or a line in, which is if you're using an external microphone and you plug it into your computer. So I'm going to click yes, I do hear it. Now that we've tested it, you can click join with computer audio and we know it's going to work. What's very important is, and I highly recommend this as a pro tip, always test your connection ahead of time. Join your meeting a little bit early and test the video and audio so you know that it works. So once you're done, you get this main screen here of Zoom. Let me go over the interface here for you so you can see. This will tell you at the start of the meeting, this is the meeting topic, Jim's personal meeting room. The host name is myself or whoever it is. This invitation URL, that's very important. If you want people to join your meeting, in other words, you have your team at work or your students or the people you're training, whoever, you need to send them this invitation URL. And you can copy and paste it, either email it to them or text it to them. This people need in order to actually join the meeting. They need this number. And if you click on this hyperlink here to copy it, it copies it to the clipboard, and I can jump to my email and I can send a new message. You can paste that, and I'll put in the subject, Zoom meeting link, and then whoever I wanted to invite could then join the meeting clicking on this link. The participant ID, that is my ID for this particular meeting. Everyone who's in the meeting would get their own ID, and you could actually track that later and see who attended, like did your employees show up to the meeting or log in or not. This box here tells you how you are connected for your audio. As you see, computer audio connected, remember we set that up ahead of time, and you want to do that so that you can be heard if need be. This is the screen share option, and clicking that allows you to share your screen. So I have it set to the desktop. So let's say I was doing a presentation and I had things on my computer that I needed people to see, like a PowerPoint or something like that. Then people could see what's on my screen and it's mirrored on their image so that they could see back and forth. You have other things that you could do. You could do a whiteboard if you had one, like in a smart classroom. So you could click on that and then students could see what you're writing on the board. You have your iPhone or iPad via AirPlay, which is like a wireless connection, or iPhone, iPad via cable, which is a hardwired connection in the basic options. In the advanced options, this one here is a portion of the screen. So what that means is, let's say that I had a PowerPoint on half my screen and like a Word document with my script on the right hand side, and I don't want people to see that I'm reading my script, but I do want them to see the PowerPoint. I could share a portion of the screen and just do the PowerPoint part, and then they wouldn't see the script that I'm reading over here. This one will let you set up the sound. This option here is for a smart, like a document camera, if you've ever seen one used in a classroom or in court. And this here button lets you share the computer sound if you want. So let's say you're playing maybe a video, you want someone to hear the sound as well, you can do that. And this one here will optimize for full screen video. So if you are playing it, you don't want it in a little window like this, but you want it full screen, you could click that button. You'll notice my screen has this box. So that means I'm sharing my screen with the members of my group. Here's the meeting ID, and I can click this red box here to stop the share. This box here gives you full screen mode if you want, and you can click on the X up here to exit full screen mode. That's not really necessary, but I don't need it. So there's a few more buttons here you want to be familiar with. This is the mute button, and you can see me talking, and if you look carefully here, you see that it is moving up and down. So if I click that, it's now crossed out and it says you are muted now. Press Shift Command A to do it, or you could just click that and you see the mic running again. See that right there? That's because the mic is hearing me. If you click this arrow, you have a few options in this drop down box. So you can select the microphone if you want to change it for some reason. I have it set up beforehand for the built-in mic for my computer, but again, this option here is if I use an external mic, like let's say you have a headset with a USB connection or another microphone plugged into either an XLR input or a mini input on your computer, the mic input, you could use that. Same as system, just basically means that it's whatever the default you have set up on like your desktop computer. This is the select the speaker system, and again I have it set for the built-in output, but if you click same as system, if you're using a desktop computer with external speakers or maybe a subwoofer connected or something, you can click the same as system, and the sound will go through those really nice external speakers that you have. In this case, I'm just using my laptop, so I want the internal speakers. You can test your sound like we did before here, just like we did. It'll do the sound check. You can switch to phone audio. If your phone is connected to your computer, or you're actually on your phone, you can speak into that and be heard through Zoom, or leave computer audio. So that's one of the things that you want to do if you are like playing a video. And then you have some more additional settings here. Come over to the settings and test your speaker like we did before. Let's click that. So we know it's working. You could see it here, and you could change the volume here. Let's do it again. I'm going to leave it loud enough to hear. We'll stop that. Or test your mic. Now we know it's working because it's here. But again, you can switch to just like the same inputs that you had before. This is the same as the ones we had before. You saw them outside. I can change the input volume to be very low if I wanted to by dragging this, or higher. I have it set on my computer as a default so you can hear. To change the audio, you have to click this to automatically adjust microphone settings. So you have to change that. Then this becomes blue, and you can make it go really soft if you want, or you could change it to here. I put it on auto, it's fine. You don't really need to change that. Auto will give you a good level so that everyone can hear. You have a few other options here. Use separate audio device to play ringtone simultaneously. If you want to hear this ringtone through an additional external speaker, you could do that. That's probably more than most people need to worry about, but you have that option. And this is an automatic setting. It says join audio by computer when joining a meeting. If you sometimes switch between having a microphone and not having a microphone, you might forget to change the inputs here. But if you have this clicked, it will always use the computer's built-in microphone input, so you never have to worry about that. You could also click this if you don't have a microphone and you don't really quite understand, how the computers work, and you're a little worried about that. So if you click this, it'll always just automatically use the built-in internal microphone, and you'll never have to worry about the sound not being heard. This is mute microphone when joining a meeting, and that's another default setting that you can do. And that's one that you want to use if you are never going to be speaking or need to be heard at a meeting, like you're just viewing or participating. It kind of will automatically always mute you. Generally, I think for me personally, I keep this unchecked because I don't want to be muted necessarily, mostly because I'm doing a lot of talking. But if something comes up and I need to be heard, I want to be able to do that without having to dig through the settings in a meeting to try and figure out what's going wrong. If you click this, this gives you the option of being muted when you log on. But if you click the space bar, it will temporarily unmute yourselves just so you can interject really quick in a meeting, but you're automatically always other muted. There's a few other settings here which are kind of nice. If you come to general, you can read through these. They're not super difficult to understand. This is a good one. Use dual monitors, which is a nice one if you happen to have two monitors set up. One will be the Zoom screen and one will be like the share screen, so you could be working on your computer, let's say, on your desktop, and if you have a second monitor where your PowerPoint is or something, you could have that over there. Or if you're a video editor like me, I use two screens all the time because it gives you more real estate. It's very nice to only share my editing software on one screen but not actually have my desktop with all its other files and stuff on there running. This one here says enter full screen when starting or joining a meeting. And again, you could do that automatically or you could do it manually with this button over here. Personally, I like to keep my screen a little bit smaller so I can move it out of the way if I need to jump and grab a file that I have on my desktop. So I generally don't do that, but if you like it, that's up to you. This was an interesting one. This one is an automatically set one, and this is enter the full screen when a participant shares their screen. So what that means is if someone is showing you information, like maybe you are a participant in a meeting and someone's doing a PowerPoint and they share that, it'll go full screen on yours so you can read it easier. It's less of an important thing to do on a computer because you have more real estate. But if you have that on your smartphone, that's a setting you want to consider, because it can be very hard, even on the best smartphones. They're relatively small compared to a computer monitor or a laptop, so it might be easier for you to read whatever the PowerPoint is or whatever the document is or whatever that they're sharing. So this is something to consider keeping checked. I generally keep this myself checked automatically so I can see what someone's talking about. This one is maximize the Zoom window when a participant shares their screen. This one goes full screen when someone shares like a document or a PowerPoint. This one goes full screen for their Zoom too, so like you would see the people full screen as well. This one to me is not that big of a deal. I'm not worried about that one. This one here is a nice one to do. It says scale to fit shared content in the Zoom window. So what it does is whatever size your window is, you know, mine is not quite full screen. I have stuff around the edges. It will make sure that the document or whatever they're sharing doesn't get cut off. It fits within the Zoom window regardless of what size you have. This one here, if you click this, it will copy the URL, which is the Zoom link that we saw earlier, to clipboard once the meeting starts, and you can quickly send it out. Someone needs to join late, you could shoot them a text or something like that, or an email so they can join real easy. This one is useful for hosts, and that's a person hosting the meeting. It says prompt confirmation before leaving a meeting. So if you're the boss and you don't want your employees to check out early without you knowing about it, if they click to end the meeting, and I'll show you how to do that later, basically they'll get a prompt to say like, are you sure you want to do this, so that they can't just bail. Like they started it, you think they're there, and then they bail. Show my meeting duration is kind of like a counter or a count up timer. That's, you know, up to you. To me, it's not that big of a deal for what I'm doing, but if you have something that's time sensitive, if you're a teacher and it's a 50-minute class and you need to be done with it by a certain amount of time, if you show the meeting duration, you will know that I got to pick up the pace or I got to slow down so to fill up my class time or get through my whole lecture or whatever. So it is handy to know, but not in every case or for everyone. It just depends if you want to do that. This adds Zoom to the menu bar. So like if I can see it like down in my dock here, so I know it's running, and I can click on the icon if I need it. I just automatically do that with all apps, frankly, that show up, whether they're in my dock or not, so I know what's running and what isn't. Side-by-side mode will allow Zoom to be on one side and shared docs to be on the other. And this one here is limit your screen share to a certain length of time. To me, it's not a function I ever use. If you're just ticking through a presentation and it's kind of running automatically in the background, that's what that does. But if you're literally showing like a PowerPoint and you're talking about what it is on screen that you mean, and maybe one screen might only take you a few seconds to go over and one might take 5 minutes to go over, you don't want the screen changing. So if this was like something running automatically in the background or shared just automatically, like scrolling through like photographs or something, that's kind of what you do. That you click it and set the time. In most cases, depending on how well you know your topic or how fast you talk, maybe you're going to need it, maybe you're not. So I generally keep that off. And there's some advanced features as well. But to do those, let me get this out of the way, that will take you back to Zoom, so I'm not going to worry about that. If you really want to do that, that's more than most people need to do, the advanced settings on Zoom. But that'll take you to the home page of Zoom, the settings, and you could kind of set up your auto settings like we went over a little bit earlier in the beginning. So let me just get that out of there. Let me go to the video settings for you so you can see those. This is important. Here I am, and this is doing a test now, and I'll know for sure if you do this before your meeting starts that you're actually working. You don't want to get in there and find out your camera's not working and then the meeting gets delayed. So you have some options here. I have it set to the built-in camera, which is the webcam built into my computer, but you can, if you click on this, now I don't have anything else plugged in, but if you had a separate webcam clipped to your computer or some other camera somewhere that you wanted to use instead, and you had it plugged into your computer and your computer read it, if you clicked on this, they would show up and you could switch around between cameras. I'm just using the built-in camera, and for most people using meetings, that's sufficient. You can change the aspect ratio. If your camera isn't 16:9, maybe it's 4K or something, or SD if it's an old one. You can change that. You can enable high def video if you want, although in most Zoom meetings you don't want to do that unless you need a really high recording of it, or you have a lot of bandwidth. Because if you have high def enabled here, let me just click it off real quick. If you have a high def enabled, it's going to use a lot more bandwidth, so you need a really fast internet connection for it to work, or your video is going to be jumpy and skippy. So it's kind of up to you to know whether or not to do that. This one is mirror my video, means I could turn it around. See, it's going the other way. It's kind of hard to tell. I'll raise my hand, so that'll be easier. See, there it is. That will turn things the other way. I've personally never had a reason for that. I think that the only reason to do that would be if you had something that you wanted to read. I have some junk mail here. If I mirror it, you see, then it becomes able to be read. Let me put it closer to my camera. This is just junk mail that came in the mail. That's the regular camera, and it's reversed, so that makes it possible for you to read something if you have to hold something up. I don't think I've ever even used that, but you may have something. And then touch up my appearance. Now that's a little bit difficult to tell on this small screen, but it's kind of like, think of it like adding makeup, or cleaning yourself up. That is supposed to internally make you look better, and I keep it checked all the time, but I don't wear makeup, so that's not, it may work better on women, let's just say, but for me, I've never noticed any difference. But it supposedly clears you up, makes your skin look a little bit nicer and a little bit better on screen, so I'll take their word for it. If you come down to meetings, it says always display participant name on their videos. So if I click that, then when you're in a meeting, right down here in the bottom is someone's name's going to show. And this is a test screen, so it's not going to work, but you will see people's names, and that is useful if you have a lot of people in your meeting. Maybe you don't know. Maybe you have people from different offices or different cities of your company, and you don't know who they are. So you want to refer to people by name. You can do that, and that's kind of a nice little extra feature, or you can turn that off if you don't want to see their names. It's up to you. It's handy in many cases if you don't know the people, or maybe you're a professor that's teaching a class, or a teacher, and you want to call on certain students, but you don't know who they are. That's handy. So I sometimes keep it on and sometimes keep it off. It depends on what it is. This one is kind of interesting. It says turn off my video when joining a meeting. And what that does is that gives you a little bit of time whether the video is not on before you actually are going to be seen on screen after you join a meeting. And why might that be useful? Well, maybe you are joining a meeting, but you're running maybe a little behind, and you're not quite settled yet in your chair, and you have your coffee in one hand, and you're taking your coat off or whatever. So you can keep the camera off so people can't see you in that sort of disheveled or unready state until you're sitting down and you're actually ready to be seen on screen. And that's handy, if you don't want your boss to see you running behind, or you're standing up and maybe you don't have pants on, which you should at one of these meetings. But if you do, then you can keep your camera off when you first turn on and automatically turn it on when you're ready to start, so that you have the option of not being seen until you're quite ready. So this one here is always show video preview dialog when joining a video meeting. When you're in a meeting, there's a chat box that can come up, and you can display that, and this kind of keeps that always showing. This one here is hide non-video participants, and that's people who are either calling in or have their camera turned off. I don't think I've ever used that, because I have a meeting, I want to know the people that are there, so that's not really helpful to me. But if you're doing a video chat and some people are calling in, or they're just listening in, you don't need to know about it, then you could use that. This is Spotlight my video when speaking. What this feature does is it basically adds kind of like a blue box around the person speaking to highlight who is speaking, and that way you'll know. It's much more useful when there are large groups than when it's just one or two people, because you can pretty much tell who's talking that way. But in large groups, it's very handy to have their box highlighted so you know who is talking at any given time. This one lets you display up to 49 participants in gallery view because it depends on how many people there are. You may not have enough real estate on your screen to show everyone, so you can kind of show the main people. We've already kind of done audio. We did that already. Now this is interesting. This is virtual background, and this is a more advanced feature. Now I have a background, you can see behind me. This is the one I use when I'm shooting my blog. I have a green screen here. You click on that, and what does it say? To enable smart virtual background, download the smart virtual background package, and you only need to download it once. So if I click that, it's going to download. And what happens is you can have the option of adding backgrounds. If you want to add your own image, maybe, I don't know, it could be a picture of your kids, or it could be if you're doing a PowerPoint presentation and you want to put the pages up, the PNG files, you can click on this. I have a picture here of Mount Everest, so let's open that up. And I could choose this image as a virtual background. And there it goes, see? Now I've used that. Yeah, I'm in the Himalayas now. Woo! It works really well if you have the green screen, like I said. You don't need to do that. See what happens when you use the green screen? If you click on the green screen button, what's going to happen is it's going to look for a color to take out the green screen. You would normally pick green, so you click on the green background and then you can put your picture over. Doesn't necessarily need to be used. It depends on which computer you're using and how old it is. So you may or may not need a green screen to make this feature work, this virtual background. I like the Himalayas ones. I have some others I'm gonna punch in here. Personally, I want to add, I kind of like this picture here of Mars, so I'm going to add that so that I could do my meeting from Mars if I want. You can add your own pictures here. There are lots of other ones they give you, and there are even videos that they include, like there's one of a shark and there's one of San Francisco, or you could change it to whatever you want, or you just click on none and it's your regular background. I have a background, as you can see, the gray one behind me. I use it in my blog, so I don't need to worry about that. But sometimes you are doing this, especially these days, people are working from home, and you don't want to have your meeting while your family's walking around behind you, or maybe you don't have a nice area to shoot in, or it's messy or whatever. You don't want people to see that in your meeting. It looks really bad. So you could add your photo and then click on the background and change it, and it works pretty good. I'm not gonna lie, it's pretty decent. I like working from Mars myself, so here I am on Mars, but you could choose whatever you want. I personally use this background for other stuff, so it makes sense I'm gonna use it for this, but then you have that choice. This button here is recording, and that you want to use if you're actually going to be recording your meetings. This is where you want to store the recordings. So usually I'll just choose a location, and if I was doing it, I would just do it on my desktop. Just click on the desktop and choose that, and it automatically goes to my desktop and it'll save it there. Or you could save it to an external drive or wherever you want to do that. This is really nice because it tells you how much space you have remaining on the hard drive where you have it, so you know that you don't mistakenly save it and then not have enough room on your hard drive. Maybe you need to put it on an external drive or something like that. So that's handy to know. This option here says choose a location to save the recording after the meeting ends. That's useful because maybe your meeting ran really long and you have suddenly realized that you don't have enough space on your desktop or wherever you saved it, and you have to put it somewhere else. So you could do that. That's very handy as long as you remember to save it. This records a separate audio file for each participant. I have honestly never used that, but it is a handy feature for some things. And I'll give you an example. I have a friend who is a musician, and because of social distancing, they can't get together and practice as a band. So what they're doing is they're all recording separately their music, and then they're combining it later using like Adobe Audition or something. So there are uses for this. For the most part, you probably won't need it that much because it's just going to be for very specialized or specific applications, but it is handy to do and to know that you can do it if you need to. This one is optimized for third-party editor, and if you're not sure what that is, this says generate your local recording video files with a standardized format that is compatible with third-party video editors, and that may increase the size. So what that means is, basically when you record your meetings, it makes like an MP4, which is the most compressed, smallest possible file Zoom can possibly make. If you really want to edit this, and you're a professional video editor like myself, you're going to need a larger type of file to actually record your video, because the more compressed file looks bad when you edit it. So what happens is you could save it in a different file format that's less compressed, but a bigger file, and I can import that less compressed, bigger file into my editing software, and the final product that's edited will come out better. Probably never going to be needed by anyone who isn't a professional videographer or filmmaker or something like that, and for most people it's not that big a deal, but it's handy to know about it if you do have a reason to record at higher quality. This one is at a timestamp, and basically what that does, if you click on the box, and it'll tell you here, this is enable this option to embed the date and time of the actual meeting into the video recording. And you've probably seen this on old like VHS home movies that people have done. This is basically puts the date and the time on the screen, and you may or may not need this. I generally never record anything with that burned in. I add it later if I need it. You could do that if you had to, and it would be just fine. It would work. If you for some reason needed the date and time to be burned in, it would always be burned in on the screen. You couldn't take it off, but it would always be there. This button is automatically checked, record video during screen sharing. You want that because you don't want to record only the speaker, but not their screen or whatever they're sharing. That's an important one. I always keep that checked because I want to record everything, especially if I'm sharing something. If I'm sharing it, it's like super important. So I do that so that I have everything and not just myself talking, but also what I was talking about. The last one is place video next to the shared screen in the recording. This does like a split screen, half with the shared screen and half with the video, and you could do that or not. I generally don't, because if I'm sharing something I want it full screen, but it's up to you. You know, you could do both if you need to be seen. These are statistics, and this just is stuff from Zoom that tells you what your bandwidth is, how you're connected, how much memory you've used, all this other stuff. There's general questions that like I basically never look at them, the audio and the video and the screen sharing. This will tell you things like later on, like how long you were talking and if the video went through smoothly, if the bandwidth was messed up. I've literally never had any reason to use it because I've never had anyone complain, but I also have a fast internet connection. So, you know, it's up to you if you need to do that. I don't think I've ever even looked at this. And then accessibility. Now this is an important one. This is your closed captions. It's nice that they have closed captioning for your Zoom meetings, especially for the hearing impaired, and you have some options. You can make the fonts bigger or smaller right here. If you are having accessibility issues and you need to do this, there's a few things you need to know. Zoom does not automatically create captions. You need to manually type it in as you're talking, which means that someone has to be standing there interpreting and copying everything down in real time, whatever's being said on screen, and then it'll show. But if someone's not sitting there manually typing it in, it's not going to happen. So it's very nice to do, but it's not automatically generated. So that's something you need to sort of keep in mind. If you have accessibility issues and you want to help the hearing impaired, it's very important that you do this manually and live in real time, or you don't have it. You can show the meeting controls on screen so that the hearing impaired can know what to do, and it gives you the shortcuts here, control and the backslash, for example, to hide the meeting controls. And there's other keyboard shortcuts here that gives you a list. I'm not going to go through each and every one of these. You can easily read them. These are the max settings. This is nice, enable shortcuts when the Zoom app is not in focus, which basically means that sometimes the camera goes out of focus. Like if a person moves, you've noticed that before, the screen that shows the shortcuts, those also go out of focus because the whole thing goes out of focus, which is a pain. This enables them basically, even if the app isn't working, and people still, know what to do. And this one's handy. You can open these up in a new window for the hearing impaired, so that this little window shows up and they can scroll through if they need to use them for some reason. So there you go. That's all your settings for all the things you can do. Most people are just going to use these ones along the bottom. They're probably not going to do too many things besides this. You can click on this over here to invite other people. That's a nice little feature. You can click on the link to copy the URL. That's the one we saw before. And you can send it by email. You can have your email account, your Gmail or Hotmail or whatever you have automatically set up. And you can send out a message with the link. You can copy the invitation to the clipboard, which is everything in the meeting email. You just copy everything and paste and send. We went through our audio options. This is the start to video. So if you know your mic's working and you want to start video, if I click on that, I'm showing. Now, if I was hosting a meeting, this is what people would see. Again, you have your options of making it full screen here. I'm going to exit out of that, or you can escape too if you want. If you go to the video, you have some other options here. You can select your camera. Now I have only a built-in camera, but if I had like an external camera source, like a USB camera, it would give me multiple options. I could choose which one I wanted to show. I can choose my virtual background here. It takes you automatically to the settings. So let's go back to Mars for a minute, and we'll do that for a little bit. And this will take you to the video settings, which is the same one that we went through earlier. I'm actually going to take the background off now because I don't need it. Down here is the invite button, and use this. This is, again, is the same as that button you saw on the screen earlier. And you can email people. If you really need someone to come quick, you can copy the URL, and you could go to your messages and send yourself. That'll open up in a Mac. Let me get rid of this. Send myself a message. The URL, and then someone could then join the Zoom meeting right there. You get messages. That's a very nice little feature. Let me close that. Let's come back over here now. So manage participants. Now this is a good one. So when you click on that, you get this chat box that opens over here. Now I'm the only participant here going over this, so I don't have a huge list of names, which you would normally see, but you have some options here that you want to go over. The host, that's me, it says. I can mute myself, which is not a good idea because I want my meeting. So I'll click unmute. I can change my name. If I wanted to, I could take like the host out. I can also turn my camera off if I wanted to. Now, if I had a list of other people here, I could individually mute them or turn their cameras off. Since I'm hosting, my camera is going to be on. But if it's other participants, other people who are there who are not the host, then you could turn their cameras off if you did not want to see them. Now there's some other buttons down here. This is a mute all, and what that does is, here comes up a window here. It says current new participants will be muted. You have the option here, you can allow participants to unmute themselves, and what that does is people can turn their mics on and off if they want. Or if I uncheck that, then I, as the host, will control everyone being muted or unmuted. I'm going to cancel that. This is mute all, this is unmute all. You get an option here, you saw the little box that says all participants are unmuted. That way anyone could be heard. I mean, if there were other people, of course. And you have the more here. This one is very interesting. It says mute participants on entry. So what that does is, regardless of what their settings are, if I'm hosting the meeting and I turn around and I don't want to hear them, but I just want them to see me, I can automatically mute them when they walk in, and I will never hear them. The default is allow participants to unmute themselves so that they can chime in whenever they need to. This plays a chime for enter and exit, and what it does is it kind of like gives a little, almost like a ringtone when someone checks in or checks out. Allow participants to rename themselves. That's up to you if you want them to be able to do that. People can use funny screen names or whatever. If it's a business meeting, that's probably not going to be happening because you want people to know you're a teacher. But if it were a training course and someone wanted to change their name and if you don't care, they can do that. Lock meeting means that people can't change the settings except for you, the host. This is put attendee in waiting room on entry. What that means is a meeting begins when the host actually starts the meeting. Oftentimes have people who come in who maybe are 5 minutes early or 2 minutes early or whatever, but start before the host. They go into like a waiting room, for lack of a better term, before they actually go into the meeting. The meeting starts when the host starts the meeting. All those people in the waiting room have like a place to go. It's like sitting on hold or in the waiting room of a doctor's office before you go in to see the doctor. When the meeting begins, that's the doctor, bringing you back to, to your checkup or whatever. So you can go into this waiting room in the first place, and then everyone, once the meeting starts, automatically goes into the meeting. So if those are for people who are early, And I think that's the way to go, because you don't want people to keep joining later and later and later as the meeting goes on. It's better to have them ready to go and all start at once. So this is the share box. So let's click on that. And this again will tell you, this is just like in the settings. It tells you what you want to share. I'm sharing my screen in this case, or the whiteboard, or these other things. Just like we saw earlier, it's the same exact box. It's the shortcut. And you have some other options here. This is one participant can share at a time, and that's actually kind of useful if it's like a one-on-one, like a teacher and their students. However, you want to uncheck that and check this. Multiple participants can share simultaneously if, like, you have a bunch of students that are doing a group project and they're all going to talk about part of the project or what they worked on or whatever, or a team at work that's working on something, and you need multiple people to be able to chime in as they get to their section or whatever. So you kind of have to decide how you want that set up, and you can change that so one person can share or multiple people can share. And these are the advanced options. This gives you the same things. These are the same as the ones we just talked about. Who can share? Only host or all participants. And again, it depends on the kind of meeting. If it's an online course creator, they're probably the only one who's going to share in their screen or anything. But if it's some other kind of meeting, then all people probably will need to be given the option. And this one here is who can start sharing when someone else is sharing. Now that's an interesting one. Your options are host only or all participants. And again, it depends on the meeting. If it's a teacher doing kind of one-on-one training with individual students in the class, you maybe only want one person to go at a time, or could be all participants, again, if it's a group project. You just have to decide based on each meeting which one you want to use. This box here is the chat box, and that's kind of an interesting one. You notice that my screen has changed a little. So what it does is, this is the chat box, and right here it allows you to close it or pop it out. So you can have a separate one. So how this box works is you can do test message. I'll just send a chat to everyone, and it pops up in the chat box here. As you can see, I've done a few. And you have a few options here. You can save the chat right here. And what that means is if you shared information like maybe URLs for web pages, or there's other important information that people need to access later, you can actually save the chat as a text file and send it, email it or text it or whatever to other people. Allow participants to chat with. That means no one, which means that the participants can't chat at all. Only you as the host are allowed to chat, or just the host, like a professor is talking to his students or something like that. People can post with everyone publicly, which is the same as this message here that I sent, or people can share publicly or privately. So what that means is, I'm the only one in this meeting right now. There's a list of names of the people who are participating in the meeting that shows up on the side, and you can send private messages to them if you like. You know, it's kind of hit and miss if you want to do that, because maybe they will send messages that they don't like their boss or whatever. But, you know, it's kind of up to you how you want to do that. So I don't necessarily need that. Not every chat message is important, but sometimes you want to send info. So you have to kind of decide what is the best way forward for you on those messages. There's a couple other little options here. You can close this, or you can pop it out, which makes it like a separate box, separate from the window. It still works. And then if you just click back here, it says merge to a meeting window. It kind of attaches it again. So I'm just gonna close the chat box for now, because that's about all there is to it. Then there's only a couple more buttons, and you've gone over everything that there is. So here's the record button. So if you click that, you have the option to pause and stop it, or to start recording. So if I click start recording, you notice you get the message here. The recorded file will be converted to an MP4, and it'll be saved. And it saves it on the screen, just like this window, this little box right here I have under my mouse. Why would you want to record? If you're doing a lecture, let's say, and the students need to be able to access it later, maybe they all couldn't show up or whatever, and you'll put it on your website or on YouTube or wherever, you want to record that meeting so that you can have access to it later, just like you can in the chats. And when you're doing it, you get the message here that says it's recording, and you can pause it. And why would you want to pause it? Well, maybe people are taking a break, like a 10-minute break for a 2 or 3 hour class or something. You don't need to record 10 minutes of an empty chair if I got up and left. So pause the recording and come back to it when you're done, so that you cut out the unwanted parts or whatever. And when you're done, you stop it. The file will be converted to MP4 when the meeting ends. So it's saving the video internally, and when I end the meeting, it will then save the file to wherever I set it up earlier. Remember, we went over that. Which leads me to the last button, which is End Meeting. Now, when you click on this, you get this chat message, this box that pops up. If you want to keep the meeting open, please assign another host before you click Leave Meeting. That is because I am the host of this meeting. I may or may not want to end the meeting. If I'm teaching a class or it's a work meeting and it's over, then you can end the meeting. But sometimes if I need to leave and I'm the host, but the meeting needs to continue, you want to have another host kind of take over so that you don't lose the chat or it would end the meeting. So you have a couple options here. You can cancel it and say, oops, I didn't mean to end. Or you can leave the meeting, or I can, as the host, I can end the meeting for all. Now, if I had other people in this meeting and one person had to leave, but other people were staying and the meeting was continuing, they would click Leave Meeting and their window would close and they'd be done, but the meeting would still continue and the host would still keep talking. Since I'm the host, I can end the meeting for everyone, which I'm going to do now because that's all there is. I've gone over all the buttons. So let me just cancel that for a second. That's everything. I've gone over every single button that you can and every single setting on Zoom that you're going to need to know. It's pretty intuitive. Almost everything on there you can kind of figure out on your own if you mess around with it. But you can go back and review if you need to, because I've covered every single button. So there's no reason why you won't be a pro at this after just a couple of meetings. This is everything that you need to know to be the host of a meeting. You can download it, the app now, and be a host. Let's say that you are a person who has to attend a meeting, but you're not the host. So let me go over that and show you how that works. It's very easy. Let's say, for example, that, I don't know, I'm an independent contractor and I want to meet with someone who wants to hire me for something. So I've gone through all the things I've gone over here. I understand it. And I've set up a meeting like I explained in the very beginning. This is how you set up a meeting. You have your URL, you copy it, and you send it to people. So what happens then? The people will receive an email with the meeting ID, that URL. They click on that URL and they're automatically allowed to join the meeting. They may go into a waiting room if you set it up, or they may have to wait for you to start the meeting as a host. If you are a person who is invited to a meeting, all you need is that link with the meeting ID and all that, I showed you how to do before. You click on that, and once it's done, they can join the meeting. You do not even really technically need to download the app on your computer or your smartphone, although I believe it does work better because it has more features. Certainly, if you're the host, you want to go ahead and have that set up so that you have the app on your computer and running out of the app and not through a web browser, because you have access to all the features, you lose some. This is what they're going to see. Let me jump over to my email and show you what an actual invite looks like. This is the email that when you set up the meeting, you'll send to them. They click on the link at the appropriate time and day, and that's it. They're in the meeting. It starts once you start the meeting. Let me jump over to my email and just find that and show it to you real quick. Here is what the email looks like. I sent one to myself with a Zoom meeting. I just titled it Zoom Meeting, and it has you join Zoom Meeting. It gives you the website and the meeting ID right here. You can put whatever you want, but this is the information that people need. They click on the link, they have the meeting ID that they can enter, and they can go directly to the chat. And you can put whatever information you need in the email, but this is the kind of thing that you would send someone so that they could join your meeting. And that's really all anyone needs to join your meetings. It's very simple. It's very, very easy to do. And with that information, they don't even need the Zoom app to join a meeting. You do as a host need it, but participants don't necessarily need it if they're just going to listen. But if they're going to participate, again in a classroom setting, it's better that everyone download the app on their computer. Doesn't take up a lot of space. Works on just about any computer. It'll last 5 or 6 years. So it'll keep working on just about anybody's computer these days. And then they have full access to be able to share a screen and do all that. With all that said, let me show you how easy it is to use Zoom on a smartphone. I've already gone over all the main features, and it's almost identically exactly the same on the smartphone. So let me go ahead and plug in my smartphone and show you how that works. And then you'll have the complete understanding, and you'll be a master at this software, this video conferencing software, in no time. So let me end the meeting, and that'll be that. I'm on my iPhone now, and remember, Zoom works on any type of smartphone, including phones from Apple, from Samsung, from Google, and more. If you want to use Zoom on your smartphone, you have to download it from the App Store or from Google Play Store or wherever. So just go in and search under Zoom, and you'll find it. This is it right here. And I already have it downloaded, so I'm not going to need to download it again, but you would just click download, and once it downloads, it'll be on your desktop. Click Zoom to open it, and I'm already signed in. You will have to sign in the first time, and you can either set up an account if you don't already have one, and you'll need to enter your email, and you'll need to enter a password, and you'll have to go through the same process as was done on the computer. But in this case, I already have Zoom on my computer, so it's super easy because I have the password saved and it just opens up. So now you're looking at the main screen of Zoom. Let me go ahead and go over what each of these things are. Up here in the top right, you have the star. And what that is you can star files or contacts or different things that you need to find in your Zoom. So if you go to all files, I don't have anything saved in Zoom right now, but let's say you have a meeting coming up and you want to search your files for something that's going to be shown. You can star it so you can refer to it quickly, and you can search for them here. You can have all your files or just your personal files, and you can filter it out to separate images if you had to share one or something like that. You can have contacts stored. Now again, I just downloaded this, so I don't have any contacts saved, but you can have important people like your boss or your family member starred, and you can have information about yourself. They call this your personal space, and think of it like, your diary or your memos or wherever you write down stuff that you don't want to forget. You can search for information in the search box here, and you could do general search, like I can type in my name, and I could search for information on myself if I wanted to, or you could go and search contacts or messages or other files to find something you're looking for. These next boxes are how you set up a meeting, so I'm going to come back to that in a second. If you go down here to add contacts, there's a couple things you can do. You can add contacts by their email address or from the phone contacts. So if I typed email address, I could enter someone's email and find them, or the other way is by phone contacts. You could type in someone's phone number and find it. So if I typed in, I'm not going to show this, so I don't want to give out my info, but if I were to type in the number, it'll ask if I want to continue with that number. Say yes. This is what this is doing. It's sending a Zoom code, a message to myself. That's one way that Zoom allows you to reach other people, is through the contacts. And that's how you can send them messages. This is the message center. So by clicking on add contacts, you can search for someone's email address here, and you can enter an email address and save it for later. Or you can add another contact from the phones. You can enter in their phone number, and then it'll send them a message. And this is the message center. So it will go ahead and maybe send them a message about this chat, maybe that's coming up, or you can ask them where they are and so forth. Meet and chat down below here, this just takes you to the main page. This takes you back to this page. The meeting button here, when you click on that, now you can start a new meeting here. I'm just going to do that real quick, and it comes back, and I'm going to end that because I'm going to go over that in a minute. But you can send invitations to people by either text message, email, or copy the info to your clipboard. So if I hit send message, it'll open iMessages and send you the link that will allow you to join that Zoom meeting. So if I send it to myself and click send, I'll exit out of this, and I'll end up getting a message from myself that has the Zoom info in it. See, I send it to myself here. It works very similarly to the way Zoom works on the computer, and you can also edit this information that you send out. You can change the ID or the password. This is your chat information that you are editing. You have to remember to save it and back out of it. And this little button up here, if If you click it, any changes you made, it's like reloads the page, so it updates them. Next is the contacts button. That's down below here next to meetings. So if you click on it, this is all your contact info. Now there's something important you have to know about Zoom, and that is it doesn't automatically access your contacts that you have saved in your phone. What it does is it wants you to import your own contacts. And it gives you different ways to kind of save those and sort them. So the starred ones are similar to the ones you had before, I mentioned earlier, where it's important people like, you know, your family members, your boss, someone like that. External contacts, that could be like for your clients, people who don't work for your company, for example. That's one way to look at it. Company contacts, you know, that's another way. You could, if you import them there, that's people you work for. There's a couple of different things you can do here. The connect phone contacts, if you click that, you can punch in the numbers and add them. Do you want to continue with ask? I say yes. It's again, it sends a message and it contacts. It's just like it did before. It kind of takes you back to that screen. And it sends a message about that meeting. And see, there it is. It popped up. That is one sort of, I want to say annoying feature, but one kind of oddball feature about Zoom is it wants you to import your own contacts. But what you can do is you can actually sort them once they're imported. So it's a little bit of work on the front end, but it's a lot easier on the back end. This channel section here, you can create channels, which is kind of like, well, it's kind of like setting up a list of important people. So if you create a channel called, you know, work, it could be everyone that you work with. You can add one here, and you can add new contacts or create a new channel or join a public channel or add an app. Channels are kind of like Zoom's way of sorting your contacts out. So you have to import them all manually on the front end, but then you sort them out so they have them all arranged. So for example, you could have one channel that's maybe everyone at work. And if you have an all-staff meeting where everyone has to attend, then you can very easily send messages to everyone at work to be, you know, 9 a.m. Monday morning to be on Zoom, and then you're all set for your meeting. But you can also set up other ones like subgroups, say everyone who works in your department. For example, if you're working. If you're a student, you might set up one for your history class and one for your biology class or one for, you know, your economics class or whatever. So you can set up smaller kind of like subgroups of people as well, so you can have smaller and smaller groups of people in meetings. And they call it channels, but that's kind of how you would think about that. And then the last button here is the settings. This is the general settings for all of Zoom that you set up on your phone. So very top here has the account info, tells you the kind of account that you have. Mine's a basic, which is the free one. Gives you the email and who it is. And you can change your profile photo. I already have mine set up, as you saw, but you can do as a photo. I like my logo, but it's up to you. You can change that. Change your name if you want something more formal. You can put notes if you want, or you can change your password. This is pretty self-explanatory, the job title and department, so you can organize people. The location's kind of interesting. That's like if you have a company that has a New York office and a LA office and a London office and a St. Petersburg office or something, and when you put people's info, you can put where they are, and you can just pull certain people out from different locations only to talk to. And you also have these other info, like this is my personal meeting ID. That's like your personal, it's like your email address. It's unique and individual to everyone. And when someone sets up a meeting, that ID will kind of tell you who set it up, regardless of how many people you invite. The default call-in country or region, I don't have it set. I live in the United States, so I could do the US if I wanted to. And user type basic, it tells you the type of account. Use Touch ID, that's handy because you can use your fingerprint ID to log in if you forget your password, or you can sign out here if you want. I don't do that because I always keep it on, so I don't have to remember that. This next one here is the meetings, and this is very similar to the settings on the computer. Auto connect to audio using the internet. Your choices are in or off, so I keep it on the internet so that I'm always on Wi-Fi and I always have sound. Always mute my mic. I keep that off because I'm the host and I always want it on. But if you were just always going to listen in and never participate in a meeting, that would be the way to go. You just keep that off and you'll be all set, so you can hear but not be heard. Always turn off my video. I keep that off because I'm the host and I want it on. The point of Zoom is to be in video chat, so That seems like a silly thing, but it is possible. There are times when you would want the video off, like when you're driving. Always show video preview. Auto copy meeting link is next. That's a very nice handy feature, especially on a phone where it's hard to copy and paste. So that you can automatically just, if you have to invite people at the last minute, you can just send a link in there real quick. Show non-video participants. You'll see the avatar of non-video participants in gallery view. So that, like, it'll show, in my case, it shows my logo. That would show. So if people are in the meeting but are only listening and not having video, you'll see something. That's basically what that does. I keep this next one on to show name when participants join, because I like the names to be seen, because I don't always know everyone's name, so it's just really, you know, it's kind of embarrassing not to know someone's name, so I keep that on so that I can see who came and who they are. Always show meetings controls. Now, we went over the meeting controls in the computer section, but I always do that on a phone for sure, because it helps with such a small screen to have the meeting controls visible so that people can navigate easier and not have to worry about finding it. Synced calendars, I actually have that off on mine because I don't set up a ton of meetings, but if you did set up a lot of meetings, multiple meetings a week, and you were very busy, you could easily sync everything. I don't do that many, so I don't worry about it. Meeting reminders, though, I do keep on, because I will usually manually enter a meeting if I have like one a week, or every couple of weeks I have one. I'll do that, and then I'll get messages on my phone that, you know, meeting starting in 15 minutes or whatever, so I'm not late. I always keep closed captioning on. And then remember, just like in the computer, closed captioning on the phone, it has to be entered manually by the host or by someone working with the host, or else it won't work. But I always keep it on here so that if it's on, I can see it. It's a lot easier to read. And it's also nice too, if you have your sound muted, you can still read what's being said. And use original sound. That function is the same as on the computer. That's like if you're playing a video or have music on your PowerPoint or something, you'll be able to hear it. Next feature here is show my connected time. It works the same as on the laptop, and I usually keep that off. And safe driving mode, that's an important one. If it's on, you're moving, keeps the video off, but the audio on so you could hear, but not have to look at the screen and keep your eyes on the road. And just like the others, on the computer, I keep touch up my appearance on. It supposedly makes it better, although I never see a difference, but that's just me. The final button here is reaction skin tone, and that lets you change your skin tone. I just keep it on default. I'm not worried about that, really. The next button here on the main screen for your settings is the contacts. Tap that. This allows you to search contacts just like the other way. That's with the phone number or contact requests, or if someone wants you to contact them, it would show up here. Next button on the settings is the chat settings. I always keep this first one on, include link preview again on the phone, because it's just super easy for someone to see the chat, and it's a hyperlink that they could touch and work, and you don't have to worry about typing it in. You can keep notifications on or off. I have them off because I don't want to get a bunch of messages, but if you are like someone's personal assistant or whatever, and you need to know what's going on, who's in the meetings and who's not in the meetings, having this function on, you can have more information and track it is probably pretty good. Now, these settings here are for unread messages in the chats. The most important one to me, I think, is this first one here, keep unread messages on top. If you are like a professor and you're answering questions in the chat or something like that, or you're a course creator and you have chats and people have questions, you want to be able to answer them. Having that on is very handy if you need it. If you're not going to use the chat or you're not going to reply to the chat, you don't have to worry about this, but I like to keep the unread messages at the top. And the other one here is move messages with new replies to the bottom. So that's the last one. That's kind of important too, because then it kind of clears out your chat and moves the messages up, so I'm scrolling through them to get the unread ones. This is nice too. When viewing messages in the channel, start with the first unread one, because that's the oldest message. So if you have that running, then you have the ability to respond to the older message. This one here is start with the latest. That's the most recent one. I don't know why you do that, because people have been waiting longer. And this is how you want to get notified. You can have this turned on or off. Personally, when I have a chat, I'll usually turn that off because I don't want it to go off while I'm talking. And then the final main setting is your general settings. This first one here is kind of important. That's on. That's blurs. your like personal information. So if you have to type in your password, you don't want people to see it, that blocks that. And this last one here is integrated calling. Basically, that feature allows you to get a phone call while you're getting a Zoom message. And if you're a host, you probably want that off because you don't want to get interrupted. But if you're a participant and you mute your audio for the Zoom meeting, you can then go ahead and take a phone call if you want. It's up to you if you want to have that or not. If you want to be disturbed, it's up to you. Siri shortcuts. So you can actually sync Siri to your settings of Zoom so that you can like reach Siri if you need to, or Siri can give you messages about the next meeting and stuff like that. It's up to you. I don't really use it. It's very simple. Siri can let you know you have a meeting coming up. And then the about settings are just like your account settings, your privacy, and different things like that. Once you come out of there, you hit the meeting and chat button down here below, and that takes you to the main page of Zoom, and we're going to go over these last 4 buttons at the top. This first button here is how you set up a new meeting. It's the orange one, and it's the one you're going to use most. Tap that. You have the video on. Yes, I want the video on, and my ID showing, and you hit the button, hit start, and this is a Zoom meeting on my phone. And the way this screen works, we're going to go over all of this, it works very much just like on a computer. Up here at the top, these are your sound settings. If you click on that, this tells you where your sounds come from. You can play music from iTunes, sounds coming from your phone, or how the sound's coming. This camera icon reverses it and uses the front camera. So right now I'm using a rear-facing camera showing myself. But if we click that, the front-facing camera, so let's do that. This button here at the top tells you like the about, the page that gives you all the user information for the meeting room, the URL, the ID, and everything. So let me get rid of that. We're going to come back to end here in a second. I don't want to use that one just yet. We'll come back to that. This microphone mute button is just like it is in the computer. Tap that and you can't hear anything. Right, I turn it off for a second. I turn it back on to mute my mic. The stop video. Now, if you're a host giving a lecture or something like that, you're probably not going to want that off. But if I do hit stop video, this is what happens. Basically, what you're seeing here is this would be my avatar, but in this case, it's my logo. So if you hit the start video button, it's the same one again. It comes back to my rear-facing camera, and you can see me. That's what you would see if you were in driving mode, for example. You could hear me, and all you would see was the avatar so that you keep your eyes on the road. This next button is the share content, and this is just like sharing on the computer. If you tap that, you have the option of you can share your screen. So if I hit that, you can have the option of recording or doing this other thing, using the sound. You can share photos. You can share stuff from your iCloud. You can send bookmarks or website URLs. You can share information which you need on your phone. It's a little bit more complicated in a way than it is on the computer, but it's the same basic idea. Next button is participants, and this is where you have the list of people who are in the meeting. Now, you can see I'm there because I'm the only one. You can see my mic working, but you could mute or unmute people. You can invite more people down below or mute and unmute them as well. And if there were more people, you would see the huge list of people just like you do on the computer. It's just arranged a little bit differently because you don't have as much screen space. And you can see down below my name showed up. That's kind of nice. I like to have it when it pops up when I come in because I want to know who's in. And then we hit the more button here. You have a few things you can do. If you like what you hear, you can leave a message. You can like put a thumbs up on the screen, but you like what people are saying, which is cool. You could click on the chat button and it opens the chat box. And you have the option of sending messages to everyone. Like if it's a class or something like that, and you can close out of there. And these other ones here, enable original sound. It works just like it does on the computer. Gives you the other sound sources, and it's a little more complicated on the phone in that you have to be careful with background noise. If like say you're outside walking around, you want to be careful with background noise when you're doing that, and then enable original sound will help with that a little bit. You can jump into the meeting settings from here, and depending upon whether you're a host or not, you can see you have the different ones here. You can lock the meeting, which means that no one can change anything. I always keep the waiting room on. Remember I talked about that? That's where people see like a generic screen and are on hold until the meeting starts by the host. Allow your participants to share their screen. That's good if they're students. And who they can chat with. They have the option of, just like on the computer, no one, only the host, everyone publicly, or everyone that includes privately, or I can cancel out of there. People can rename themselves personally. They can do that in their chat, but I'd rather they didn't because I like to know who said and did what. And then there's host controls as well. So I can change the topic, like the name. If I click on that, I can change what this is. I could do test or, my class name or whatever it is. I can mute on entry the various people if I want, which is handy as a host, especially if you don't want people to make noise when they're getting settled in. I can click on play chime for enter and exit so I know who's coming, although I usually keep that off because I find it annoying and distracting when I'm working. And some of the general settings I always have, like I said, I always have meeting controls on. Touch up my appearance is always on. Closed caption I always have on. Those are self-explanatory. And show name when they join, just like you've seen in the past. It shows them for a few seconds so I know who's in. And I always keep show my connected time off. Oh, minimize meetings. Let's do that. That's next. So if I clicked on that, people would see my screen and me, which is kind of cool. If I needed to share my screen, but also maybe I'm explaining something or I want them to see me, it makes sense to do that. And if you want to come out of that, you just click your little image of yourself and it comes right back to the main screen. I can disconnect the audio and turn it back on over here. That works good for participants maybe, but not for the host. You don't want to do that. If I want to end the meeting, there's a couple things that come up. I'm the host, so when I click end, it's going to say end meeting for all or leave the meeting. Now, I'm the host, so I can end the meeting for everyone. However, if I was just a participant and I left the meeting, I would leave, but everyone else would stay. It works just like that. In this case, I'm going to end the meeting. There's a few other buttons here that we didn't go over that are important. They're kind of self-explanatory. This is join. So I can join a meeting with the ID that we've been talking about, and I can enter that in there. If I email that to someone, you could copy and paste it or you have it. The schedule is when the meeting starts. I can schedule a meeting here and enter it, and it'll go on my calendar. You can see it's pretty self-explanatory how to do that. And then the share screen option, when you click on that, you need to have the ID for a meeting to do it, but it will allow me, whether I'm a host or a participant, to share my screen or share my info. That's very handy. Well, if you're a host, you want to be able to do that usually, but if, let's say you're a teacher and you have students that are working on a project and they need to share their homework or something like that, you would want them to be able to do that. But in a nutshell, that is all of the features for Zoom on your phone. It's pretty basic and pretty easy. There's a few differences from the computer, but it's mostly the same. I have just a couple more things I want to go over real quick on my laptop, and this tutorial will be done. So I'll be right back to my laptop in just a second. I'm back on my computer and I just wanted to show you real quick what the screen recording of the video looks like. I saved one from earlier. So if you come over here, it's saved. And let me just open that up real quick. Here's my MP4 file. If you play it,
click that, you have the option to pause and stop it.
There you go. You can see. There is what the Zoom video capture looks like. Well, that about does it for this tutorial. I've gone over all the settings for you on how to use Zoom on your computer and also on your iPhone. But it works again on any phone or any Mac or PC, tablet, computer, desktop, whatever you have. If you would like to learn how to use other types of teleconferencing and video conferencing software, such as WhatsApp, Skype, FaceTime, and more, I've done videos on those as well. And I'll link to those in the description below for you so that you can watch those videos after you watch this one and you'll have in-depth understanding of those programs as well. If you want to look your best during your virtual meetings, I've also done a training video on how to look and sound as good as you can while you're on any type of video conferencing software. I'll link to that video in the description below as well for you. When you're done with this video, you can go ahead and watch those and you can learn even more. Zoom is such a popular video conferencing software option because it's so easy to use. Once you're set up, all you need is a few clicks to start talking to all of your colleagues. Now, if this is making sense to you, but I've got it in the comment section below. My question of the day is, Have you been holding virtual meetings more often now that the pandemic is in full swing? Leave a comment below and let us know. Would you like to learn more about your camera settings to get you shooting like a pro? I've created an absolutely free cheat sheet for you and all the best camera settings to shoot video with your DSLR, mirrorless, or video camera that will show you the settings that will allow your photos and videos to shine and to stand out from the competition. The link to get that cheat sheet is just below in the video description. I've also created cheat sheets on other topics such as video editing, and now even offer training courses on editing video using Adobe Premiere Pro, and soon I'll have others. I'll link to those cheat sheets and training courses below as well. You can learn to edit like a pro with my training course. That I guarantee. Do you want to see more videos like this? Follow my YouTube channel, Jim Costa Films, for more. Think what you saw was great? Like it. Do you have an opinion? Then please comment below. Do you know someone who could benefit from the information that I provided? Please share the video. Do you want to learn even more? If so, then connect with Jim Costa Films on social media and online on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and the web. I currently have over 4,300 videos on my YouTube channel, Jim Costa Films, so feel free to check out many of my other videos for great tips and suggestions. I am a full-time working photographer, video producer, video editor, and technology pro. That's the small business that I own, and it's how I make a living. You'll find my contact info in the description below. Feel free to contact me if you need photography or video production services for you personally, for your business, or for someone that you know. If you follow me for a while now, you may know that I have a community of photographers, videographers, and filmmakers just like you on Facebook, where I share other pro tips and tricks. It's called Video Producers and Content Creators. I love new members who want to share their work, learn from others, but also help others as well. You'll find a link to that group in the description below, so feel free to join it where you can learn even more.